Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I would really appreciate it, and I promise to update daily. If you love this watch, you can see it, and you can purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. Today, we are discussing a timepiece that is larger than life. This is the Breitling Bentley Motors. This is a monster in stainless steel, a timepiece measuring 48.7 millimeters. This is a watch truly equal to the reputation, the style, and the substance of Bentley. And if it seems a big, bombastic, over-the-top, somewhat brash expression of mechanical horology, well, that just means they got it right. On my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, it sits big, broad, bold, and bright. The watch, almost 49 millimeters, actually uses the same case patterned after the big Navitimers of the late 60s to mid 70s. So this is actually a heritage case from Breitling, along with the differential system that drives the logarithmic scale calculator. Everything you see here but the Bentley branding is drawn directly from Breitling history, so it has an authenticity and a legitimacy to it that a Johnny-come-lately car-branded watch ordinarily would not command. It's not a thick watch. 15.1 isn't that big for a watch that's almost 50 millimeters in diameter. Lug-to-lug 54.8 means that it's considerably shorter lug-to-lug than an IWC Big Pilot, which is about 57, so the watch actually sits better than I expected. The spacing between the lugs is broad. 24 millimeters perfectly matches the proportion of the case. The timepiece is featured on a Diving Pro 3 strap, and we'll see exactly what that means. It's got a little bit of a chocolate bar imprint to it, where it starts as raised text, and the natural vulcanized rubber eventually inverts, where you have an embossed pattern. So it's a handsome looking piece, but what really matters is that it's thick and thus difficult to tear. And if you look underneath, it's a wonderfully pre-cut system of scored marks, so you can cut this one to length, though you don't necessarily need to cut to the nth degree, because this is Breitling's premium clasp, and the premium clasp features, first, trigger release, not a cheap clamshell system. It's also not stamped and spindly or tinsel-like. It's a very solid set of swing arms and clasp body. You'll also note that the push-button slider gives you that incremental adjustment, so you don't have to hold your breath when you cut and hope you didn't go too far. The strap itself is wonderfully comfortable. Most vulcanized rubber straps are a little bit stiff. Not this one. It feels almost like silicone. Jumping back to the case, it looks slender in proportion to its width, so it winds up being a surprisingly graceful thing. Like the Brooklyn's Coupe, which I adore to no end, it winds up being a big machine that wears its lines, its mass, with class. You can see that there's a lot of faceting and forming to give shape and definition to this large pile of stainless steel. So though it's bright polished and ample, nevertheless it does have grace to match its pace. And that pace is best appreciated on the dial side, where a 1926 patent is revived in the form of a 30-second chronograph. So you can see how there are these individual hash marks in between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, terminating at 30 at the end of the 360-degree arc. Well, that's because in 1 second, the chronograph hand covers the space of what would conventionally be 2 seconds. Therefore, you can actually read the 1/8 of a second calibrations. Ordinarily, it's tough to say that a watch with 8 beats per second can be read down to 1/8 of a second, because we just don't have the eyes for it. By spreading that second out over a bigger piece of dial real estate, you have a better chance of reading it. It also creates a more dynamic chronograph in action. The bezel is knurled and engine turned. It features both a cross-hatching style knurling, and then there is a scalloping of the knurling outboard that makes it easier to grip. It's remarkably ornate, and it echoes the diamond plate and knurling that you'll see in the mechanical compartments, as well as custom cockpits of vintage and modern Bentley vehicles. You'll also appreciate the fact that this bezel uses Breitling's captive system, so it's fixed to the watch using screws, not snapped on. So unlike a Rolex, Omega, or Tag bezel, it can't accidentally be snapped off. It must be dismantled with tools to remove. What appears at first glance to be a helium escape valve is actually the cap for the differential system. This is a rather deluxe circular calculator. It works inversely compared to a standard Navitimer, but it's designed to principally multiply and divide, and this one's calibrated for motorsports activities rather than flight computer duties, but it works principally the same way. It doesn't take that long to figure it out, but you will note, due to the differential system, it has a different character as the outer track moves faster than the bezel itself, and that's due to the differential gearing. If you get close to the dial, you can see it's a sunburst blue, quite richly appointed, with all applique indices, countersunk registers. Note the small railroad track for the chronograph minutes, and appreciate the fact that the watch also includes a wonderful set of fully loomed sub-registers, so you can see hours, minutes, and seconds. It's a remarkably dynamic dial that features that sunburst center, a few splashes of red, and then a sloped flange outboard that gives it great depth. You could follow the eye as it planes from the knurling down the flange, the center dial, and into the registers. There is a date, and the timepiece features both stop seconds and a quick set date, vertical clutch chronograph module on top of an ETA 2892A2 COSC chronometer base. You can see this one is a special edition. Make that special edition, not limited edition. COSC certified Swiss chronometer, 42-hour power reserve, and despite being a motorsports chronograph, 100 meters water resistant. It's nice to have the in-house complication too, as it adds considerably to the pedigree of the watch. You can see this Breitling for Bentley Motors and make it yours on the watch box. Breitling for Bentley Motors, lit up for the nighttime hours at Le Mans.